Hi everyone. For this week and next week, we're going to be working on a project that has to do with the art style of murals. So we're going to talk about where murals came from and some mural artists and some vocabulary words that will help you create your design. So a mural is any work of art that is painted or applied on a wall, a ceiling, or any other large permanent surface. So you can see here, this is a really big outside wall with a very large painted mural on the side. Murals have been around forever, even since the 1500s. That's hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And they started actually in big churches, and the churches would hire these artists to make these amazing murals all over the walls and the ceiling. And the purpose of these murals is they would tell stories. They would tell these stories from the Bible. Murals today are a little bit different. Some artists can be hired to paint a mural on the side of a building by a company, a business, or by a private person. Or an artist can just create a mural for a city. So this is a mural on the side of a building in a city. So murals today can be really creative, and they show the style of the artist. Here are some artists who I love, some mural artists. This is Maya Hayek, and what she loves to do is she loves to create geometric mural designs. So that means she's using very simple shapes. She's also using colorful shapes, and she's layering these shapes on the sides of her buildings to create sort of like an abstract design. This is actually a building in Illinois. It's all the way in Bloomington, Illinois, and she painted this mural with a bunch of students. Now in her mural designs, you can see that her shapes overlap. There's lots of different types of shapes happening together. They are simple shapes, but there's a lot of them packed together, overlapping. Simple and geometric shapes is what she loves. Shapes are colorful normally, and they fill the space of the wall. They're all connected together. There's no big spaces in between the shapes. They're all kind of flowing together. So that's the style that she loves in her murals. Let's talk about these two words, geometric shapes and freeform shapes. Geometric shapes are shapes that we know that have names, like circles, squares, triangles, other shapes that you can put a name to. Freeform shapes are shapes that do not have a name. They're shapes that have a lot of curves and waves, and usually you see these types of shapes out in nature. So geometric shapes is what we're going to be using for part of our mural, and freeform shapes is what we're going to be using for the other part. So let's talk about some different artists, not mural artists. This is actually a doodle artist. His name is John Bergerman. Doodle art is a lot different from geometric mural art, like what Maya has created. Doodle art is usually using freeform shapes, so shapes that are kind of circular, curvy. They don't necessarily have specific names. A lot of characters and things from nature is what you'll see in these freeform shapes. In doodle art, the shapes are usually connected and they all flow together throughout the space. So if you look at his art here, you can draw a line from the start of the doodle all the way, and it connects to all the other doodles. He usually draws things that he likes or things from popular culture. Popular culture just means things that are popular today. He likes characters, foods, other things that he loves from his life, like his hobbies. And his doodle art is often filled with a lot of different types of silly characters with different expressions. Here's another doodle artist on YouTube, and their channel is called Pick Candle, and they have a lot of different videos that show you the process of how they create these doodles. They also love really silly characters, things that are funny, things from popular culture, little objects that are connected together, rainbows, and other things that relate to things that they like. Mr. Doodle is an artist that I love. He has very simple doodles, but he creates all of his doodles with just this one big marker, and he starts with one spot and he connects everything all together. And his doodles, again, are very silly and playful, and they have lots of simple shapes that show these funny characters. Kirby Rose is a little bit more of a complex doodle artist. He has a lot more details in his doodle art, but if you look really closely, you can see some things you might recognize. This is a Pokemon doodle, and he loves those characters that he's packing together. Doodles by Sarah. This is a YouTube channel that you can check out too. She will show you how she creates her doodles and some tips. And then Vex, he's a really neat artist too. He likes to play around with the color in his doodles. So your job for this project is to create a mural design that combines two different layers, geometric shapes and freeform shapes. So let's find out how. Here's some examples from some fifth graders in the past who have created this project. If you look closely, you can see their two layers. Their colorful layer is their geometric shape layer. They drew this and then painted this, and then their second layer is their doodle layer. They drew this layer with a black marker. So they're combining two layers on top of each other, and the layers are working together to create one whole work of art. Here's a few more examples. One thing that the fifth graders incorporated into their work is something called movement, one of these principles of design that we have been learning about. And this is the way that your eye travels all throughout a work of art. So one of your goals for this project in each of the layers is how can you show movement? How can you connect shapes together to show a moving path? And how can you connect your doodles together to show a moving path? Think about also creating a focal point or an emphasis point in your art. That's where the viewer looks at first, maybe the most detailed part, and then the doodles will kind of break off from there in a movement sequence. Look at these two works of art from fifth graders in the past. These are some really great examples. Can you see where they showed movement and emphasis in these works of art? I can see a lot of different areas where they showed movement and emphasis. If you look carefully at this work of art here, some people might say that the emphasis in this work of art is the big eyes of this creature. That's what I see first. They're very large and they stand out. Some people may also say that this is an area of emphasis. There's a large shape here with a lot of details on top. I can also see they're creating movement with their shapes. You can see that their shapes are connected all together and they all kind of flow together. I like how they're using these types of lines to connect things together as well. This work of art also shows a lot of movement. I can see these shapes that are connected together. I can see that this is a big area of emphasis, the details and the really large shape here. I also like this area of emphasis. It's very colorful, so it stands out to my eye as well. So they're using a lot of areas of movement and emphasis as well. So step one, how will we create this? You are going to draw your background layer first using a combination of geometric shapes. So you can use any paper that you have at home, any white paper. It can be big, it can be small, but you want to fill up that space of that paper with geometric shapes. Think about not using just one shape, but a combination of geometric shapes. Try to fill the space of your paper and not leave a lot of empty space. Try to show some movement. One way you can do this is connecting your shapes all together in a path. Try to color your shapes with your choice of coloring supplies. If you have paint at home, I would definitely suggest to use that. These fifth graders used paint. Because we're not in school though, we don't have paint to give out. So if you don't have paint, you can always use markers, crayons, or colored pencils. Next, once you've filled your background layer, you're going to fill your second layer with your doodle designs using a black marker. You can also use a black colored pencil or a dark pencil if you have one as well. You may want to practice these doodles on a separate piece of paper first. There's some videos on the art site that you can watch to get some practice doodling. Make sure your doodles are free-form shapes and they also show movement. Play around with space as well. If you look at this example here, you can see that the doodles and the shapes in the background are interacting in really funny ways. So this artist has drawn these big circles in the beginning, and then they added eyeballs on top. So the doodles are sort of becoming the shapes. They did the same thing here for this character's eye. They did the same thing here when they drew these scissors cutting the heart. This little robot hand here, the little star which turns into a cat. So the really interesting part of these doodles, in my opinion, is when the shapes and the doodles start to become one. The layers become connected and they work together. All right, that is the end. So let's visit the art site and start to watch some videos. The art site, if you've not visited yet, it's really packed with a lot of resources for you to look at so you can get started. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 11 videos here that you can choose to watch. You can watch one or you can watch all of them. And there's different doodling tips on here with all the artists that I showed you. So I would start by watching this first, and then you can start to create your background. You have 2 weeks to complete this. So starting with your background today, and then working on your doodles next week so you can put it all together. All right, good luck.